Good evening, Canada. Our top story tonight, CBC has more employees than viewers. That's right, as this very broadcast shows, the staff outnumber the audience.
Well, I guess viewership doesn't really matter when you live off the teat of the taxpayer at a tune of $1.4 billion per year. But propaganda is expensive, and if Gobbles taught us one thing, is that it's money well spent to keep people under a spell while you do horrible things. And that's why I'm here, to bring you facts and information that the CBC won't ever touch. Speaking of propaganda, we now have a Canadian MP who's actively working to push Chinese propaganda in the House of Commons. But you won't believe what else has happened in Canada over the week. So stay with me because you don't want to miss this report. My name is Ellie Degno and this is the Right Call Report. Like, share, subscribe. Any interaction on this channel helps get the truth out and maybe one day break that CBC-induced coma that so many Canadians are under. And if you're tired of that same old government and media BS that just won't stop and finally want some common sense commentary and also some factual information, well then smash that subscribe button because you're in the right place. So today, Michael Ma has been working overtime pushing Chinese propaganda. You won't believe what he said. It is completely messed up that he would support such a horrible thing. Then the House of Commons has been busy passing bills, or I should say voting down, striking down bills that would have protected you. Who are they really working for? And has CBC, hell, actually frozen over? Because it seems like they're starting to keep Mark Carney accountable. I couldn't believe that they actually said this. And lastly, we might have a savior in the form of an American coming to Canada to actually investigate fraud and government BS. Who would have thought? This and so much more on this Friday's report. Stick around, you don't want to miss this one. So Canada actually just released this ad online, and I couldn't believe this was real.
Breasts are sacred. When I imagine my final days, I see bubbles. I see the ocean. I see music. Even now, as I seek help to end my life, there is still so much beauty. You just have to be brave enough to see it.
What is going on? This is an advert for Made. Canada is actively pushing adverts to end your life. What? May I remind you that cigarettes and tobacco ads are banned in Canada and have been for a while? So cigarettes and tobacco are not to be pushed on people, but Made apparently is? Like, what is going on in Canada? Is that the state of our country now, where we're pushing people to just end it with everything? Have we slipped so far down that this is now the option? And why is the government actually supporting this? It's complete and utterly insanity. I don't think any Canadians should stand for this. And a little bit of a fun thing here that it's important to notice, but have you noticed that every person in the ad is white? I mean, we push diversity on everything, and I mean everything except this. It raises a lot of questions. What are they trying to imply here? What's the message? Why are they pushing this on us? I won't speculate on it. I think it's pretty self-explanatory and despicable beyond measure. We should not accept this. And another thing we should not be accepting is a floor-crossing MP who is born in Hong Kong, a foreign country, that appears to have allegiance to another country. This raises serious questions about government officials being infiltrated, co-opted by foreign governments. I'm talking about former Conservative MP who crossed the floor recently, Michael Ma. The same Michael Ma that was caught at a Confederation of Toronto Chinese Canadian organization event, which was marked by overt symbols of the Chinese Communist Party, such as red scarves and singing the Chinese national anthem in Canada. Keep that in mind. So that Michael Ma, well, this week in a parliamentary committee, this happened.
Liberal Party's newest MP is facing backlash over an exchange he had today at committee. Michael Ma was questioning a witness who is against Canada accepting Chinese electric vehicles. That witness raised human rights violations against Uyghurs in China, and here's how Ma responded.
You claim about forced labor in Shenzhen. Have you witnessed this yourself? Have you been there ever?
I've been to China many times.
Have you witnessed
since
forced labor in
1979?
Shenzhen? Have you witnessed just a short answer. Have you witnessed forced labor in Shenzhen? Yes or no? So did you get that
I
from
work closely
hearsay?
with Human Rights Watch, where researchers did witness it.
So thank you.
Moments later, a Conservative MP took the floor and she raised an issue with Ma's questioning.
Ms. McQuaig-Johnson, I want to apologize for the member on the other side of the table.
Point of order.
Very rude to you.
Okay, colleagues, just one moment.
I obviously in public being accused, and I like an apology from the member from the other side.
Okay, Mr. Ma, that would not be a point of order, and I don't...
Give me evidence that any violation that requires an apology for me on my behalf.
Ma's office sent a statement to defend his action, saying Michael used a quick burst of yes or no questions to move away from the anti-China EV witness, and then to give the floor to the pro-China EV witness. That was the strategy.
Like that's any better? You're pretty much admitting your playbook. Why are you pushing Chinese EVs on Canadians? What? You should be focusing on Canadian-made EVs and cars and Canadian jobs, not Chinese jobs. To me, it seems like Michael Ma is working overtime to run cover for the Chinese Communist Party. So overtly that even the CBC had to call him out, which surprised me very deeply. I mean, these are serious allegations of forced labor against the Uyghur in China. And we're going to dive deep into, are those actual truthful allegations? But before that, watch this interactions right outside of committee.
Sees Olivia Stefanovich caught up with Michael Ma literally on Parliament Hill just a short time ago.
To challenge a witness on forced labor in China. Do you believe there's forced labor in China? You do? Is that a yes, Mr. Ma?
Sorry, I'm late for a meeting.
Yes, but can you please explain your comments at the Industry Committee?
I have no comment at this time.
The Conservatives are making it seem like you don't care about forced labor in China or you don't believe in it. What do you think of that?
Well, they like to exaggerate always.
Was it really an exaggeration? Do you believe there is forced labor in China?
I believe there are forced laborers all over the world.
What about China specifically?
Well, all over the world.
But China specifically?
Sorry, I need to run.
Do you believe there's any forced labor in China? I believe there's forced labor all over the world. Okay, let's rephrase this. Do you believe that a man has walked on the moon? Well, I believe many men have walked places. But on the moon? Well, as I said, men have done a lot of walking. So do you think that a man has walked on the moon? Sorry, I have to go. This is how ludicrous it sounds. I mean, he's flat out denying that China has forced labor camps. He can't even admit to it. So here's what's actually being alleged in China. There's labor camps, aka slavery camps, to prop up their domestic industries like cotton and solar materials and aluminum. There has been mass detention and re-education camps with over 1 million Uyghurs detained since 2017. These camps are used for political indoctrination and assimilations. And by the way, the Uyghurs are an ethnic minority in China that is being actively persecuted by the Chinese government. There's also reports of forced sterilization of women that are Uyghurs. Reports of torture and sexual violence in these mass detention camps. Now, obviously, the Chinese Communist Party denies all of this, but don't take it from them. Take it from the following organizations. This is an article from the CBC that says human rights groups believe China has detained more than 1 million Uyghurs against their will over the past years in a large network of what the state calls re-education camps and sentenced hundreds of thousands to prison terms. A series of police files obtained by the BBC in 2022 has revealed details of China's use of these camps and described the routine use of armed officers and the existence of a shoot-to-kill policy for those trying to escape. The US is among several countries to have previously accused China of committing genocide in Shenzhen. That's the place that Michael Ma was referring to. Here you see an example of a re-education camp being built over the years. So who are the Uyghurs? There's about 12 million Uyghurs, mostly Muslims, living in Shenzhen. The Uyghurs speak their own language, which is similar to Turkish, and see themselves culturally and ethnically close to Central Asian nations, not Chinese nations. Now, several countries, including the US, UK, Canada, and the Netherlands, have accused China of committing genocide. It's not just nations doing so. We have the United Nations Human Rights Office of the High Commissioner who tabled a report saying exactly that. I mean, we're not going to go through the entire thing, but it's in there. If that's not enough, how about the Human Rights Watch that also details crimes against humanity in Shenzhen? God, I can't pronounce that word, but whatever. Don't care. Mass detentions, torture, cultural persecutions of Uyghurs and other Turkish Muslims. And if that's not enough, how about Amnesty International that has an entire website dedicated just to the crimes being committed in Shenzhen? I highly encourage everyone to go read this because it is insane to witness what a government can do to people. I think that's actually a good thing for us to keep in mind because we're so shielded here in Canada from the atrocities happening over the world that we forget that evil actually exists. And we have to be able to defend ourselves against the influence of these insidious regimes that are power hungry and will stop at nothing to expand their influence over the world, including in Canada. But if all this doesn't convince you of the crimes being committed there, how about real life footage from a dissenter that risked his life to go record what I'm about to show you?
爬上山头拍摄，还不敢站立拍摄，怕被人注意到。
I mean, I gotta give it to him. Jeez, that camera zoom though, pretty good. Anyways, this is what Michael Ma is running cover for. But don't worry, there's always gonna be someone running cover for Michael Ma as well, namely CTV. So they posted this article with the tagline, Floor-crossing MP Michael Ma casts doubts on reports of forced labor in China. Casts doubts? How about holding him accountable for spreading conspiracy theory that China does not actually do it? This is the level of journalism we have. They're running cover to protect clearly someone who is on the wrong side of history here. But you know what? Here's the best way to test Michael Ma's allegiance, and I'm not even kidding. Someone should go up to him, a journalist, heck, maybe me if I find him one day, and ask him the following question. Do you believe that Taiwan is a sovereign nation? See, CCP operatives and Chinese nationals cannot say that because China regards Taiwan as a rogue runaway province that entirely and wholly belongs to China. To say that Taiwan is a sovereign nation goes against the CCP narrative and can get you jailed or even worse, sent to one of those re-education camps. So I would love for someone to test the theory. Say hi, Michael Ma, how you doing? By the way, do you believe that Taiwan is a sovereign nation? If he hesitates or does not say yes, or does one of those like, I believe a lot of, there's a lot of labor camps in the world, blah, 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 he's co-opted. He's a Chinese asset. Guaranteed. And I think I'm going to do an entire episode about how China is actually inserting itself in every strata of Canadian society. From First Nations, yes, First Nations, to Parliament Hill, to our media institutions. It is insidious, and I would not have the time today to do so, but it might be coming soon. Something else that might be coming soon in Canada, though, is more crime, more government control, and less freedom. Because see, yesterday, the Conservative Party in Parliament introduced four bills that would significantly help Canadians reduce the crime that we're experiencing. And all four were shut down and voted against by the Liberal and the NDP. So there was Bill C-220, an immigration status and sentencing bill. It would ban judges from considering immigration status when sentencing offenders. That's right, because right now in Canada, if you're an immigrant, your status will be taken into consideration during sentencing and perhaps used to reduce your sentence in order to avoid deportation. We're putting and prioritizing the need and the safety of foreigners over that of Canadians. May I remind you that our Constitution guarantees equal protection and equal benefits under the law. Now, a bill like this would ensure that such a protection exists, but rather, the Liberal government right now is hell-bent on giving equal protections, not equally. Some people are more equal than others. Some people deserve more protection than others. And that is fundamentally against the Constitution of Canada, what makes us supposedly a great nation. We are supposed to be all equal. What kind of country are we if our most basic and sacred document is not even respected anymore? Then we had Bill C-242, Jail Not Bail Act. It would have made it harder for accused individuals to be released on bail, but right now, it's super easy to just post bail and go back into the streets and keep committing crimes. It happens time and time again. People are arrested for a crime, and while our incredibly slow and bloated justice system that does nothing awaits your trial, well, you're off in the streets free to commit more crime. This happens over and over again when it's a small group of criminals that disproportionately commit all the crime. And instead of locking them up pending their trial, we release them back on the streets. Well, the Conservative wanted to nix that little loophole, and the Liberals and NDP voted against it. Then we had another bill, parole review reform. It would have made proposed changes to the parole review process for offenders. Again, tightening the process and preventing criminals from being released back on the street. You know, in Canada, we believe in rehabilitation, not punishment. But ultimately, if people don't get rehabilitated and get released back on the street and keep committing crimes, you're putting the life of Canadians at risk. The government's role is to protect Canadians, and they're failing miserably at that. And then we had C-246, which is consecutive sentences for sexual offenses. It would have required consecutive stacked sentences for multiple sexual offenses. And again, that was voted against. The Liberals and the NDP chose to protect sexual offenders over Canadians. Let me be brutally clear here. These people care more about the well-being of criminals than they do Canadians. This should tell you everything you need to know about the priorities of the government and whether you should trust them or not. The big issue is that Canadians think the government is working on their behalf. But when you see things like this, forget the words, forget the nice little gaslighting promises. Look at their actions. Look at what they're voting on. Look at what they're doing. Are those the actions of people that care about your well-being? If you say yes, I think you might be a little bit masochistic. I think you enjoy a little punishment here. This is not a government that cares about its people. It goes against everything that is common sense. And we're being gaslit into believing that we're the crazy people for raising these questions. This is pure propaganda. But you want to know what the Liberals and the NDP voted for, though? C-9. They voted C-9. That's the hate speech law that will now jail you for Facebook posts and Twitter memes. That's the hate speech law that can jail you for life, by the way, up to life in prison, for quoting the text of a Bible, a Torah, a Quran, any Abrahamic religion, name it. If you quote the text that could be considered hateful within it, you can, and probably will, be jailed. We're following into the footsteps of the UK, who loves to jail 15,000 people per year that are arrested for online posts. That's what the Liberal and the NDP voted for. They voted for letting off the hook sexual offenders, but your dank memes online, well, that will get you jailed. And to tell you just how bad C-9 is, even Elizabeth May voted against it. This is what she had to say about the bill.
But Bill C-9 not only doesn't solve problems of hate crimes, it not only doesn't give law enforcement new tools, it will create a morass. I'm absolutely certain that if this law is passed as is, it will waste police resources, waste court time, and tie people up in knots in wrongful prosecutions for things that were never hate crimes at all. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I vote against this bill.
Well, I guess this proves that a broken clock can at least be right twice a day, or in her case, once a decade. And it seems that even CBC now might be right. I'm going to have to change my entire intro now because CBC, I might like them. The mainstream media is now pointing out that Mark Carney is a complete failure. Who would have thought? I never thought I'd see the day. After 13 months of being prime minister, he hasn't kept a single promise. And we're at a point where all these losses are adding up and the mainstream media is actually starting to question it.
Dimitri, and it's one that took the previous government too long to learn, and it's what contributed to a huge lead for Pierre Poilievre back in the day. I'm not saying this will replicate this time. I think that to be fair to the government, there are some very positive statistics around foreign direct investment, for example, or even more largely the rate of inflation. But when it comes, take inflation as an example, even that, everything you thought was something a month ago is blown out of the water now because of what's happening with gas prices. They've literally gone up 40 cents on average everywhere across the country. So I guess I find it difficult to reconcile, hey, it's very affordable out there. At the same time, people are paying, in BC, $2 a liter, for example, almost $2 a liter for gas.
Right. But whatever this government is doing, Canadians right now are not seeing a return on that investment. When you have productivity contracting instead of growing, the two big promises that Prime Minister Carney made, which got him 169 seats and he's about to get a majority. The first one was the Canadian economy. The number one thing that premiers and the federal government can do is actually truly take down interprovincial trade barriers. Those would add roughly 7 to 10% to the GDP, represents anywhere between $200 and $300 billion into the Canadian economy. And the second thing was the big promise, the elbows up promise, was to deal with Donald Trump, get rid of tariffs, and renegotiate a free trade agreement and put all of that behind us. So I understand how people are saying, well, nobody can handle Donald Trump and it's out of his control. But those are the commitments that he made. He promised to deal with Donald Trump. He promised to get rid of tariffs. He promised to make that go away, and it still hasn't. And whether he's leading 10, 15 points in the polls. I'm surprised the Liberals aren't calling a general election this spring. But the reality is, political or not, whatever Prime Minister Carney promised to do, he has yet to deliver on, and he's on his 13th month as being Prime Minister.
And I mean, I never thought I'd agree with the CBC, but the guy's right. Carney promised these things. Those were his words. I'm the best guy to deal with Donald Trump. He even promised we're going to have a trade deal by July 1st. Well, that was July 1st of 2025. We're going towards July 1st of 2026, and there's still no trade deal. Heck, Trump won't even take his calls anymore. But you know what we're doing though? We're importing Chinese EVs, and we now have Liberal MPs that are straight up running cover for the Chinese. It's just been failure after failure after failure with gaslighting peppered all over it. And speaking of gaslighting, this is exactly what Mark Carney had to say about all this, and we're going to fact check him live.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Illusion, same old Liberals, same old failures. Look at the economy. He likes to blame world affairs for his failing economy, but the G7 countries have the same world economy. Yet, Prime Minister has delivered the second highest unemployment in the G7, the worst household debt in the G7, the worst housing costs in the G7, the worst, in fact, the only shrinking economy in the G7. And, Mr. Speaker, we have 100,000 lost jobs in the last 2 months alone. Why is it that after this Prime Minister promised that he'd be the first, he's the worst in the G7?
That's a good line.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's look at what's happened to the United States since the summer. They have lost 6,000 jobs. This country's created over 80,000 jobs since August.
False. Over the last year, Canada's job growth has been flat. We added 46,000 jobs, and then after that, that was wiped with the loss of 109,000 jobs just the last 2 months, according to StatsCan. Furthermore, the US didn't lose any jobs. They added 600,000 jobs in the last 2 months. So we lost 109,000. They added 600,000 in the last 2 months. And this is according to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Wages in this country, they are growing the highest in years, 4%. They're growing twice the rate of inflation. Canadians are getting ahead. Every single month of this government, Canadian wages have grown faster than the rate of inflation.
Again, wrong. Yes, wages are up 4%, and it still lags behind inflation over the last decade. So it's a moot point. People are either at par or poor, because guess what has increased over the last 10 years as well? Taxes. To give you an idea, over the last decade, the cumulative inflation in Canada has been 30%. 30% over a decade. The question for you then is, has your wage kept up? Has your wage increased 30%? There's the answer.
Rents are at a 33-month low. Affordability is the best it's been in over a decade.
I just want to take a second. Here's Michael Ma. Oh yeah, I'm being a good pawn. Yes. Anyways. Well, that's another lie, because according to this CHMC, tenants are still paying near record high rents currently. And according to the National Bank, affordability isn't the best in the last decade whatsoever. It's at 51.6% of income. Housing costs is 51.6% of income, whereas the long-term average is supposed to be around 40%. So that's lie after lie after lie being gaslit constantly by our Prime Minister. I mean, we're at the point now in Canada's economy where you have to offer freaking grocery rebates. You have to give people money to eat food. That's how bad it's getting. I mean, you got Mark Carney right here saying that the new Canada Groceries and Essential Benefits puts money back into the pockets of more than 12 million Canadians. That's up to $1,900 this year to help you with everyday costs. Well, I decided to reply to that. But I mean, call me old school, but if the government has to give money back to 28% of the population so that they can afford necessities like food and other essentials, well, it stands as a proof that the country and its government has utterly failed. More than 25% of Canadians benefit from this freaking grocery rebates. That's not the hallmark of a civilization that is thriving. But luckily, someone might be coming to Canada to investigate why we are not thriving despite having the potential to be the wealthiest country in the world. So Nick Shirley, some people might recognize the name. He is the American independent journalist that has blown the cover on the massive Somali fraud happening in Minnesota. You know, the one where Somalis run fake daycares and fake medical institutions and then build the government at the tune of millions of dollars. You know, the same Minnesota where just the fraud uncovered is in the billions of dollars and equals to more money than the entire GDP of Somalia. Well, that Nick Shirley has said that he might be coming to Canada to investigate things. So we have a Canadian content creator, Damani, who posted a story on Instagram saying, "This is why Canada needs Nick Shirley." And Nick actually responded and said, "Let's expose Canada," which has caused Twitter to go absolutely wild. And Canadians from all over the country are calling for Nick to come and investigate the corruption happening in our government. Some people even offering to pay for his flights, lodging, open up their own home to welcome him, to feed him. I mean, Canadians are tired of what's going on in the country, and they're just pleading for someone to uncover and expose the truth. So let's go. I hope that he comes. I mean, we are a trove of corruption. There's so much to expose. And since the CBC, CTV, and all the other mainstream media won't do it, well, someone has to. And maybe one of the first things he can do is look into the visa scam and fraud that is happening with international students in Canada. If you want to have a better understanding of what I'm talking about, I made an entire video about it. Click right here to go watch it. It is insane. You probably won't believe it. But for the time being, my name is Elliot Daniel, and this has been your Friday Report. Have a good weekend.